I never imagined I'd fall for a cleaning lady. Until a secret changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was cloudy, the kind of heavy sky that weighs down your spirit. I stood there, heart racing, and everything felt wrong. I had no idea that a simple encounter with a cleaning lady would unravel my life in the most unexpected way. She was unlike anyone I had met. Her hands moved gracefully over the dust-covered surfaces, her brown eyes flickering like candles in the night. I watched, mesmerized, as she wiped away the remnants of neglect from my office. I could smell lavender wafting from her. The scent made my heart ache. It reminded me of my grandmother's garden. Tears pricked at my eyes, unexpected and unwelcome. Our eyes met for just a split second, but in that moment, everything shifted. I felt electricity coursing through my veins. It scared me. What was wrong with me? I barely knew her. Yet, here I was, feeling as if she was the only person who truly saw me. Back home, I masked my fears with work, trying to bury my emotions in endless spreadsheets. My family. They never understood. My father's harsh words echoed in my mind. You have to be tough. No room for weakness. My mother, kind but often lost in her own world, was an echo in the background, never really there when I needed her. I was drowning in expectations, but the softness in her eyes was a balm. I needed to know more about her. I started asking around. Something in her past whispered secrets. People murmured about her, tales tangled in shadows. A mysterious divorce, a lost dream she never spoke about. It intrigued me, and yet, I felt a knot in my stomach, tension rising. What if my curiosity pushed me into territory I couldn't return from? One afternoon, I approached her, my heart thumping loudly in my chest. I asked her name. She hesitated, a flicker of fear crossing her face before she whispered, Lila. Just then, a crash echoed from the back room. I jumped, and so did she, her face paled like a ghost. We exchanged a glance filled with unspoken worries. What was happening behind those closed doors? Then, she grabbed my arm, her grip firm but trembling, and pulled me toward a dark corner of the office, her breath quickening in the stillness. You must promise me, she started, her voice a low whisper, filled with urgency. You can't let anyone else know. I felt the weight of her plea, the seriousness in her tone sending chills down my spine. There was something lurking just beneath the surfacious secret that could change everything. I leaned in closer, my heart pounding against my ribs. Questions swirled in my mind. What was she hiding? What had I stumbled into? I needed answers. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air was thick with anticipation as Lila's grip on my arm tightened. I could feel the warmth of her skin seeping through my shirt. My mind raced, churning the possibilities of what lay behind that veil of secrecy. What could be so grave that it commanded such fear in her voice? It felt as though the walls were closing in, squeezing the air from my lungs. Still, I couldn't back away. Not now. Promise me you won't tell anyone, she whispered again, her eyes pleading. They mirrored the storms brewing inside me, a clash of yearning to protect her and the overwhelming fear of stepping into unknown territory. I nodded, driven by something deeper than reason. The echoed crash in the back seemed louder now, interjecting moments of terror and frustration. What happened? What's going on back there? I asked, urgency tinging my tone. She glanced toward the dimly lit office corridor, then back at me, her brows knitting together as if to hide her thoughts from the world. It's complicated, she said, her voice barely more than a breath. Just trust me. I could feel every fiber of my being screaming for answers, yet I took a step closer, drawn to her fragile strength. The world outside felt distant and meaningless as the storm of impending revelation thundered in my mind. I want to help you, I confessed, my voice softer than I intended. Whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone. Her expression softened briefly, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through her walls. For a moment, I saw not just a cleaning lady, but a woman careless in the face of her own burdens. Then, like sand slipping through fingers, the moment vanished. You don't understand, she said, desperation creeping into her tone. Am not who you think I am. A shiver raced down my spine. What was she hiding? My curiosity morphed into something darker, darker than I had ever known. I wanted to reach into her heart, pull out her fears, and shield her from shadows looming just beyond our grasp. But the space between us felt infinite, filled with layers of grief and secrets that would not reveal themselves easily. I can't tell you everything, she continued, glancing over her shoulder as if sensing unseen eyes peering into our moment. But I need you to know that before she could finish, the door swung open violently, exposing a tall figure with a hard expression etched across his face. He wore a crisp uniform, ink black with an emblem I didn't recognize, a badge of authority that radiated aggression. Lila, he barked, his voice disruptive like the crash that had startled us moments ago. Excuse me? I stepped in front of her, instinct driving my actions. Who are you? The man's eyes narrowed at me, briefly assessing my presence, then refocusing on Lila, his tone darkening. This is between me and her. You need to leave. Not a chance, I retorted, glancing back at Lila, whose face had gone pale, haunted by memories I could only begin to imagine. What does he want from you, Lila? I can't, she stammered, voice trembling. The shadows that had once offered comfort now felt like unshed tears, the weight of silence threatening to pull us apart. Enough, the man snapped, reaching for her as if to drag her from behind me. That moment ignited an unexpected fire in my chest, burning fiercely against the dread I felt. I couldn't let him take her, no matter the cost. Lila, you don't have to go with him, I shouted, the urgency increasing as I stepped back, forcing a barrier between her and the man. In her eyes, I saw a story waiting to unfold, a silent plead that danced just beyond my reach. Then, amidst the turmoil, a flicker of defiance ignited in Lila's gaze. I can't keep running from this, she said, biting her lip, her shoulders shaking slightly. You don't understand. It's bigger than us. And in that moment, as her words hung in the air, I felt the ground shift beneath me, chaos unraveling like a tapestry. The intensity of her stare caught me off guard, igniting hope and despair in equal measure. Just as quickly, the man's hand closed around her wrist, and a new storm gathered in silence, the kind that lives in the spaces between breaths, the chaos waiting just off stage. What do you mean? I demanded, feeling my heart race anew, panic clawing at my throat. My instinct screamed that something was terribly wrong, but it was too late to save her from whatever fate loomed ahead. As he pulled her closer, Lila turned her head, whispering breathlessly, "You might not see me again, but find the truth. Promise me." With those parting words echoing in my ears, the door shut violently behind them. I stood there, alone and hollowed out, with only the weight of her promise collapsing around my heart. The questions now raged louder than the silence, echoing in the confines of my mind. You will find the truth? What truth? Where had they gone? And if she hadn't meant for me to be involved, why had she pulled me in? I stumbled back, grasping for something, anything to tether me to this reality. But all I felt was the creeping dread of the unknown, shadowing my every breath, and the heavy burden of secrets that were far from over. The sudden retraction of Lila's presence left a cavernous void in the air, an absence heavy enough to anchor me in place. The dim hallway around me felt suffocating, each shadow that shifted in the flickering light deepening the anguish that clawed at my chest. I was left grappling with the weight of her last words, "Find the truth." But where was I even supposed to start? I leaned against the wall, fingers running through my hair, as if that would untangle the web of thoughts and concerns that swirled chaotically in my mind. Time ticked by mercilessly, each second an agonizing reminder of the uncertainty that had replaced my once mundane evening. I needed answers. But what could I possibly uncover about the woman who had so intricately woven her life into mine in such a short span? Pounding footsteps echoed down the corridor, yanking me out of my spiraling thoughts. A woman in a lab coat appeared, her face etched with worry. "Did you see where Lila went?" she asked breathlessly, her words tumbling out in a rush. I opened my mouth to respond, but found myself paralyzed. How could I help? I hardly understood what had just happened, much less the details of Lila's life. Instead, I hesitated, my silence a makeshift barrier against the reality that pressed in from all sides. "Please," she pleaded, eyes darting toward the now-closed door. "It's urgent. She's in danger. The people after her, they won't stop until what?" I blurted out, surprising myself at the fierceness of my voice. "What do you know?" For a fleeting moment, uncertainty clouded her expression before her resolve settled back in. "I'm someone who cares about her, who knows the risks. The organization that took her, it's been tracking her for months." Lila tried to escape, but her voice faltered, and in that moment, I saw the weight of sleepless nights and burdened guilt in her gaze. If she's back in their hands, it could be fatal, fatal. The word hung heavily between us, a grim reminder of the potential horrors that awaited her. Desperation surged through me like a tidal wave. I needed to do something, anything, to pull Lila back from this precipice she had been forced toward. "I need to help her," I said, unfurling my fists, determination igniting the passion that had burned hours before in defense of her. "What can I do? Follow me." Before I knew it, I was sprinting down the corridor after her, heart racing. The adrenaline coursing through my veins drowned out everything but the instinct to protect Lila, to face whatever darkness lay ahead. She was more than simply a cleaning lady. She was a woman buried beneath the weight of secrets, and I was determined to help lift the burden from her shoulders. The lab was alive with activity when we arrived. Technicians focused on screens that flickered with data. Whispers of urgency filled the air. The woman led me to a small office in the corner, cluttered yet chaotic in a way that felt oddly comforting. "This is where we analyze the information we gather," she explained, moving to a desk piled high with files that I leaned in closer, scanning the stacks of papers, desperate for anything that might reveal Lila's truth. My heart raced as I spotted a photo wedged between two folders, Lila's smiling face, framed by faint shadows, flickering with the warmth of a memory I had yet to claim entirely. I snatched it up as if it were a lifeline in a turbulent sea. Just as I turned to share it with the woman, the door swung open, and another man stepped in, a figure with a grimace etched deeply into his jaw, his demeanor radiating an unwelcoming chill. The atmosphere shifted, tension thickening like fog suffocating any semblance of hope. "She's not safe here," he said sternly, eyes narrowing sharply at me. "You need to go. Go where?" The question dripped with frustration. "I'm not leaving her. Not now, not ever. Listen," he snapped, exasperation flaring in his voice. "She's already made the wrong decisions. You don't want to be caught in the crossfire?" "Crossfire? What are you talking about?" My pulse leaned heavy, bordering on fury. The urgency pushed me forward, my hands clenching on the edges of the desk. "Just tell me what I can do to help her." In that moment, the woman beside me stepped forward, her gaze steely. "There's an underground network, people there who can protect her. But we need to move quickly. They might already be tracking her." Hope flickered in my chest, rapidly battling against despair. I had no roadmap to navigate this treacherous unknown, yet I knew every second counted. "Then let's go." As we raced out of the office, a muted thud echoed behind us, an ominous premonition that thrummed through my senses. I turned to look back, suddenly gripped by the chilling notion that we might already be too late. The world outside felt foreign, suffused with shadows that snapped at my heels as we hurried into the night. Beneath the moonlight, everything was amplified, my heart beating in my ears, fear lashing at my resolve. What had I just stepped into? But there was no turning back. If those who hunted Lila were as relentless as they seemed, then I had no choice but to open Pandora's box even wider. And then, clear as day, I heard an engine revving in the distance, the unmistakable sound of a vehicle prowling with intent. The air crackled with danger, and my heart dropped at the realization that the hunt had begun. "Go," I yelled to the woman, adrenaline fueling my feet as I sprinted forward, a primal urge to reach Lila, to save her from whatever chaos awaited just out of sight. But as I dashed into the dark, I couldn't shake the feeling that suddenly, the secrets we were desperately trying to escape had drawn tighter around us, just waiting for the right moment to ensnare our fates. The city loomed ahead, a sprawling maze of faded neon lights and towering shadows that danced with the wind. Each footfall echoed against the asphalt, reminding me of the pounding heartbeat thrumming in my chest, fear layered with urgency. My breaths came out in sharp bursts, the tension in the air heavy enough to suffocate my resolve. Over here, the woman shouted, veering sharply into an alleyway. I followed, limbs moving almost on instinct, my mind honed in on the goal ahead. Lila. The darkness enveloped us, cloaking our flight from prying eyes, but each step deeper felt like splintering into an abyss where nothing was guaranteed, not even our safety. Who are you? I finally asked, glancing sideways at my companion. Why are you so invested in Lila? For a moment, her face flickered under the wan city lights, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability beneath the facade of urgency. Her name is Mia, she admitted, breath trembling. Lila is my sister. The revelation swept through me like a shockwave, filling the void left by the haunting cold of uncertainty. In that pivotal moment, Mia became more than just a stranger caught in this chaos. She was family, wrapped in the same terror and desperation that fueled my own quest to uncover Lila's hidden truth. Then we need to move faster, I urged, my heart swelling with newfound determination. They could be closing in on us right now. Mia nodded, her face set with resolve, and we surged through the narrow passageway, weaving past rubbish bins that ejected noxious odors and graffiti that wove stories of agony and survival. I have contacts who can help us, she explained, her voice barely above a whisper. If we can just reach the safe house, we might be able to get Lila out of the city. Safe house? I repeated, glancing back, the shadows spilling behind us with a menacing presence. How do you know it's safe? The network I mentioned earlier, she replied, anxiety sharpening her features. They've kept Lila protected in the past, but it won't last. The organization is ruthless and knows every corner of this city that a sense of foreboding settled heavily over us as we horizontally traversed winding alleys and closed-in spaces, bypassing flickering streetlights. Each step seemed weighted with the potential danger trailing us. Despite the dark atmosphere, a flicker of relief ignited when we reached the mouth of a stairwell concealed behind a worn-out door. Here, Mia said urgently, pushing it open. We slipped inside, the door shutting with a muted thud that echoed in the stillness. The air inside was thick and stale, and dim light filtered through a single bulb overhead, illuminating the faded walls. Are you sure this is correct? I could barely keep the tremor from my voice. The shadows felt as if they were whispering secrets I couldn't decipher. Yes, she insisted firmly but low. This is our best shot. You can trust me. As we descended the narrow staircase, I halted mid-step, remembering the photograph I clutched from earlier. The image nestled against my chest, an anchor holding me steady in this swirling storm. Mia, I found this, I started, fumbling to extract it from my pocket, eager to share this fleeting glimpse of Lila's joy. But a sudden noise from above interrupted my footsteps heavy with purpose. Quick, Mia hissed, urgency flooding her voice. We have to hide now. My heart raced, panic wrapping its icy fingers around my throat. As we darted to the side, I had a fleeting moment to appreciate the irony of our situation. Me, a stranger to Lila, suddenly thrust into a world of danger, twisted secrets, and a looming darkness that threatened not only her life, but mine as well. That we pressed ourselves into a shadowed corner, holding our breath, our bodies rigid as the footsteps grew louder, reverberating off the dank walls. I could feel Mia quaking beside me. Our fates intertwined as we shared this unspoken fear. A figure stepped into the dim light filtering down from the stairs, illuminated just enough for my pulse to spike and anxiety to trickle through my veins like poison. The silhouette of a man loomed, face partially obscured by the darkness, a predator searching for its prey. Where are you, Lila? His voice slithered through the space, low and dripping with menace. My heart raced as I clenched my fists, burning with the resolve to protect the woman I barely knew, yet felt so inexplicably drawn to. But as we held our breaths in that moment, hearts racing at the impending dread, I realized this wouldn't be easy. Then, as the figure descended the stairs, a horrifying thought crept into my mind. What if Lila wasn't just in danger, but had willingly put herself in harm's way? What if she was the key to this entire web of secrets? The echo of those footsteps of this pursuit signaled that a chasm of truth was about to crack wide open, unveiling the very things I had yet to grasp about the woman who had infiltrated my life. As the figure neared, I caught the glint of something metallic in his grip. An undeniable conclusion washed over me. The chase for the truth had morphed into something far more hazardous, and I could lose everything: friendship, love, and above all, my very life. Stay quiet, Mia whispered urgently, and I could only nod, fear and determination mingling within me. The hunt was on, and we were the prey. In the suffocating air of the stairwell, every essence of hope seemed to flicker like the dying bulb above us, casting grotesque shapes on the walls. Mia and I flattened ourselves against the cool, damp concrete, the clanging echoes intensifying every second. My heart hammered not only from fear, but from the nagging thought of Lila and who she really was. The man's low voice dripped with malicious intent, each syllable wrapping around me, as if to ensnare my very thoughts. Lila, you can't hide forever. Come out and face the consequences. His words twisted inside me, coiling like a serpent, threatening to choke the breath from my lungs. Was she truly a part of this darkness? I tried to focus on the moment, the now. Yet the appalling questions loomed large. Had she known what was at stake? Had she made a pact with the shadows that now threatened to swallow us whole? Listen, I whispered to Mia, fervently. I need to know. Is she involved in whatever this is? Not like you think. Mia pressed her lips tightly, her hands trembling. She didn't choose this life. They forced their way in. The urgency in her voice ignited a flicker of hope amid the chaos. Even if Lila had made mistakes, even if she had strayed into murky waters, perhaps there was still a chance for redemption. Just then, the footsteps drew nearer, dragging the bitter tension through the still air. What do we do? I asked, panic creeping back in. My voice quivered, struggling to maintain a steady breath. Mia's gaze darted around the stairwell as if searching for a miracle, then muttered, We wait. He won't expect us to be here. Her resolve shone through the fear, springing into life with a steadfastness that vied with my own uncertainty. Time seemed to stretch like an elastic band, each second passing as an eternity. The man paused, his silhouette mingling with the darkness while the air thickened around us, feeding an insatiable dread. The tremors within me whispered of danger and loss, a hideous cocktail swirling ominously through my veins. Lila, he bellowed again, frustration ricocheting through his mental state. You have a chance. Come out, and I promise not to hurt you. His confidence, a storm of arrogance concealed beneath the surface, made me shiver anew. I could sense the weight of desperation lodged in his Tonia manipulation meant to draw her out of hiding, to wield power over her as he sought control over the entire web he had spun. What if she's really in there, Mia? I whispered, fighting against the horror mounting inside me, an insidious understanding clawing at the edges of my sanity. Mia's eyes softened, hinting at the love and fear she had for her sister. If she's in danger, we can't let him find her. We have to distract him somehow. Right. I nodded, adrenaline surging. I looked around and spotted a metal pipe on the ground, half buried under debris. It wasn't much, but in a world ruled by shadows, every flicker of light could forge a path. There, I pointed. If I create a noise further up, we might have a better chance at slipping past him. It's risky, Mia warned, but I could see her resolve sharpening. I know. But it's a risk we have to take for Lila. My mind raced as I moved to the pipe, the slick chill of it sending shudders through my fingertips. On 3, we do it. That we counted down, our hearts synchronized in a chaotic rhythm fueled by hope, a fatalistic dance tinged with desperation. 1, 2, 3. I swung the pipe against the wall hard enough to throw reverberations up the staircase. The man above froze for a moment, confused, footfalls pausing as if startled by the sudden noise echoing through the cramped passageway. We shared a glance, time amplifying the weight of our actions. This was a tour chance or our endgame. Now, I whispered sharply as we bolted toward the shadows, slipping past the doorway and into the deeper recesses of the stairwell, the darkness enfolding us. Everything felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Just as we descended further into the abyss, a blast of light cut through the darkness, revealing 2 figures looming in the entryway. Above, get them, the man hissed, urgency spiking terror throughout the air. Panic exploded inside me, scattering every prayer of safety. Until that moment, I felt a fragile comfort in our alliance. But now, as we fled deeper into the maze of uncertainty, I realized that each hurried step was leading us closer to something even darker. Where are we going? I cried, fear lacing my voice. How do we get out of here? MIA's expression darkened, her spirit quaking under the mantle of responsibility. To my contact's place. If they're there, they can help us. Her voice trembled, but there was an undeniable strength in her eyes, determination propelling us forward through the shadows. The world narrowed into a tunnel, lights flickered above, casting long, darting shadows that danced ominously around us, as if ignited by the pulse of my own fright. Just as we thought we could escape, a soft thundering echoed behind us, the irresistible approach of our pursuers. We need to keep moving, I called, urgency flowing into my limbs like wildfire. In that fleeting moment, I reached for MIA's hand, anchoring ourselves to our shared fear. My heart stuttered as the reality settled in. The hunt had become savage, and it was only a matter of time before we faced the truth. One thing overshadowed all else. What if we didn't reach Lila? What if we were too late? And then, in that moment of heartache, despair shadowing the hopes we clung to, I heard her voice for the first time. Floating through the corridors of silence, sight was soft yet powerful, something that exploded like starlight amid the darkness. Help me. The sound sliced through the atmosphere as a knife through silence, igniting anger and desperation in my heart. With Mia pulling me forward, we plunged deeper into the veil of shadows, every instinct screaming for the time of the truth to come. But now, it wrestled against a shocking fear. If we found Lila, would we be prepared for the answers her revelations would bring? The echoes of Lila's cry reverberated off the damp concrete walls, a haunting melody that sent chills dancing down my spine. It surged through me, igniting my limbs with renewed urgency. Lila, I shouted, my voice a desperate plea torn from my throat. Hope surged and waved in bitter contradiction with the fear clawing at my insides. Stay close, Mia urged, her grip firm around my wrist as we turned another corner, plunging into the unknown. The stairwell twisted like a serpent, shadows stretching hungrily after us. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. The space between the beeps of my own anxious pulse was filled with a blend of hope and devastation. Over here, she beckoned as we stumbled into a wider, dimly lit corridor marked by peeling paint and the stench of dampness. My eyes darted to the flickering light bulb swinging precariously from the ceiling, just above an old wooden door ajar at the end of the hall. Could she be in there? I whispered, the weight of possibility pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. Mia nodded, her face resolute but fear glimmering in her eyes. Fueled by her determination, I pushed the door open slowly, heart racing as the rusty hinges creaked like a haunted lament. Inside, a cluttered office awaited, dim and disheveled. Old files piled high on the desk and shadows loomed over the vacant chairs. My instincts kicked in. Lila could be here. She must be. Lila, I called out again, desperation igniting hope yet again. Help. The voice echoed once more, louder this time, tinged with anguish. My heart sank as it unspooled what little solace had begun to thread through my being. There, Mia pointed, rushing toward a hatch concealed beneath a rotting rug. Without thinking, we both knelt to lift it, muscles protesting against the trapped air that weighed down our breaths. With a swift motion, we flung the hatch open, revealing a darkened space below, filled with echoes of despair. Lila, I shouted, my voice cracking. We're coming for you. A moment of chilling silence hung in the air before a soft whimper emerged from the dark. Please don't leave me. It was a plea that resonated with my own fears. I glanced at Mia, her face pale but steady as though our shared nightmare had forged an unbreakable bond between us. We need a light, she muttered, her eyes scanning the office. Frantically, I searched for anything to pierce through the dread that enveloped our hearts. The dim desk lamp flickered feebly under a pile of papers, but even that spark of illumination could guide us closer. Flipping the switch, I was met with a sickly yellow glow that barely edged into the gloom of the hatch. It would have to do. Keep talking, Lila, I shouted, breathing through my heaving chest. We're almost there. Please, it's dark, I can't see. She whimpered again, and the helplessness gnawed at my conscience. I don't. Before she could finish, a loud crash echoed from the end of the corridor, the unmistakable sound of someone barreling toward us. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs as adrenaline surged once more, igniting panic within me. Now, we have to go? Mia urged, already shifting to the side of the hatch. Lila, hold on, I cried out, descending into the darkness. The moment my feet hit the cool earth, unyielding terror clutched at my throat. I felt around, my fingers brushing over cold metal. Lila's upturned face emerged in the weak light of the lamp, fear etched in her features, mirroring the shadows that danced around us. I'm scared, she choked out, tears streaking down her cheeks. Before I could reach for her, a sinister figure swept into the room behind us, illuminated briefly by the dim light. My stomach dropped as I recognized the exact face I had feared. A smirk of triumph stretched across his lips. Did you really think you could save her? He sneered, stepping closer, blocking our only way out. Run. I barked, grabbing Lilith's arm and pulling her towards the exit just as Mia joined us, her determination enfolding us like a protective barrier. As we scrambled back, the world transformed into a whirlwind of chaos, the echoes of our frantic heartbeats merging with the footsteps behind us. Adrenaline coursing through my veins, I weaved through the shadows, pulling Lila along with me. Mia? I snapped, glancing back at her. We can't let him trap us. In that heartbeat of adrenaline, a light shone like a distant stare, an exit ahead beckoning us. Hope ignited anew as we surged forward, but my instincts screamed that it wouldn't be that easy. Just then, as we surged toward that flickering light, a distant voice broke through the chaos, a different sound than before, one that was unanticipated yet chilling. Don't you dare run from me. Lila, you owe me. That voice ricocheted as the shadows closed in. The wave of anxiety surged. We would never be free from this. And as Lila tensed beside me, I thought of the promises made in the darkness. Would we be able to keep them? Or was this just the beginning of a deeper spiral into despair? Cold fingers of fear clutched at my throat as we reached the doorway, bathed in an eerie glow. The world outside beckoned, yet each step felt weighed down under the burden of that sinister voice trailing behind us. You owe me, it taunted, the jest laced with an unsettling truth that enveloped Lila in a shroud of vulnerability. As we burst through the door, the moon hung heavy in the sky, its silvery light flickering against the treetops like an omen. We stumbled onto the gravel path leading away from the decaying building, my heart racing in defiance of the looming darkness behind us. The crisp night air seemed to invigorate us, yet beneath that fresh breeze, an unsettling tension simmered. Keep running, I urged. Lila stumbled, the weight of her fear almost tangible as she clung to my side. I risked a glance backward, half expecting to see that glimmer of wicked glee in his eyes, but he was nowhere in sight. A rush of relief washed over me, only to be swiftly replaced by the reality of our situation. Where do we go? Mia shouted, her voice strained, urgency eclipsing any trace of composure. I scanned the surroundings, the quiet woods stretching into infinity around us. The car is parked by the old church, it's not far. The memory of the church flooded back to Meth's sanctuary that once radiated warmth and safety, now encased in the echoes of a fleeing past. Come on. Wait, Lila gasped, pausing mid-run. My heart dropped at the distress etched into her features. What is it? I asked, barely keeping the tremor out of my voice. Point two, can't keep running, she stammered, panting as if the very act of self-preservation was too heavy a burden to bear. Her eyes held an abyss of pain. The night had already drained her spirit. We can't stop now. You have to trust me. I choked back my own rising panic, knowing we were still in the lion's den, swirling with shadows. But the momentary halt had stolen our momentum, and reaching the car felt like chasing shadows in the night. I turned to Mia for reassurance, but I could see the dread reflected back in her eyes. This chase was tearing us apart at the seams. Lila, please, I pleaded, steeped in my own desperation. You have to believe we'll get through this. Just a little further. Yet doubt flickered in Lila's gaze, shadows of fear pulling her down. Then, in a moment that shattered my resolve, she whispered, what if he's right? What if I can't escape what I owe him? The words felt like daggers, slicing through us all. The connection I had felt with Lila suddenly felt frail in the face of the darkness poised to consume her. You owe him nothing. You are not bound to whatever twisted game he plays. A wave of anger surged through me, directed not just at the man chasing us, but at the despair threatening to clamp down on Lila's heart. Just trust me, I implored once more. It was a feeble hope guiding us through this nightmare, and yet it felt like the only thread left hanging between us. Just as she finally nodded, a cacophony of footsteps thundered through the trees behind us, sending splinters of dread through my veins once more. "Run!" I shouted, my voice fierce like a weapon, shattering the fragile trance Lila stood under. We took off again, tearing through the underbrush, hearts pounding in unison with the rhythm of freedom that now felt like a distant echo. The sound of laughter taunted us now in the air, and it seemed to envelop us in a veil of ominous anticipation, hinting at the shape of the unknown ahead. Then somehow, amidst the rush of escape, I caught a fleeting glimmer of light amidst the branches of flicker that drew my eyes. There! I pointed at the old church standing silhouetted against the night sky, its spire a beacon in the dark. I could almost taste the relief that awaited us, but the approach was fraught with tension, each step pulling us deeper into a spiraling fear. Yet, in that moment, something unexpected happened. A figure stepped out from the shadows, an angelic silhouette against the church's dilapidated facade. "Go, get inside," a voice urged, urgency threading through the air, not the voice we feared, but a guardian facing down the darkness. "Who are you?" Mia gasped, caution flickering in her eyes like a flame yearning for protection. "Just trust me," the figure insisted, stepping closer until the moonlight revealed a familiar face, the cleaning lady from the office complex, her expression steady as she gestured for us to hurry. "I've been waiting for you. He's coming." Without pause, I took Lila's hand, pulling her forward toward the sanctuary that now felt more like a haven than a ghost of our past. But with every step, I felt a gnawing dread, a secret lingered unspoken, threading between us, simmering with the potential to unravel everything in its wake. As we crossed the threshold into the dimly lit church, the door slammed shut behind us, sealing us within this semblance of safety. And yet, as the shadows embraced us, I couldn't shake the chilling certainty that whatever lay ahead wouldn't just test our courage, but unravel the very thread of trust that bound us together. "Everyone deserves redemption," the cleaning lady murmured, her voice low and inflected with a sudden weight. "But you don't know what Lila has to face." My heart dropped, realization slithering into my thoughts as dread coiled around my heart. A shocking revelation began to form, one that could potentially destroy the fragile hope we had fought so hard to cultivate. Lila's eyes flickered with uncertainty, and as she stepped into the flickering light of the candles surrounding us, I knew we were at the precipice of something dark and dangerous. Whatever lay ahead was inevitable. Our journey had only just begun. The oppressive darkness of the church enveloped us, mingling with the stale air that reeked of centuries past. As we huddled within the fragile sanctuary, the ambient glow of flickering candles cast distorted shadows across the walls, shadows that seemed to pulse with an energy all their own. I could feel Lila's presence beside me, her warmth a stark contrast to the cold grip of fear that clawed at my insides. "Who are you?" I finally asked the figure who had shielded us from the night. The cleaning lattice eyes bore into mine, somber yet resolute eyes that held a depth of knowledge I couldn't comprehend. "I am someone who understands," she replied, her tone as grave as the atmosphere around us. "And I know what he wants from Lila." An uncertain ache settled in my chest. "What do you mean?" I pressed, every word feeling like an incantation that could unravel the very fabric of our fragile alliance. "Not here," she urged, glancing furtively towards the heavy doors behind us. "We need to get to the back room. It's safe there." With sudden purpose, she motioned for us to follow, leading us through the church's darkened interior. Each step felt like walking into the heart of a storm, revitalizing both hope and fear in equal measure. As we entered a cluttered room at the back, filled with ancient relics and dusty mementos, I felt the weight of history pressing in around us. "What's your name?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Marie," the cleaning lady responded. "Now, listen to me carefully. This isn't just about running away. You need to understand the source of his power over you, Lila." "Lila, you don't have to listen to her," I interjected, desperate to eradicate any uncertainty that clung to her. "We can just leave this place and forget about him." "No," Lila said, her voice steady but laced with pain. "If he wants me, I owe him. We need to know the truth. even if it scares me. Marie nodded slowly, her expression a mix of compassion and concern. He's not just after her. He wants control over what she carries, the weight of a promise made long ago. As the words sank in, I felt the ground beneath me shift. A promise? The words hung in the air, heavy with implications that struck a chord deep within me. What kind of promise? I asked, the tension sharp in my throat. Lilith's gaze shifted from Marie to the shadows around us, her inner turmoil palpable. I don't know, I only remember him lurking in the corners of my childhood, whispering things that faded into dreamlike fears. Whispers don't hold power, I retorted, shaking my head. We can forge our own path together. But deep down, doubt began to root itself in my mind. Even as I tried to reassure her, what you owe him is not what you think, Lila. Mary's voice was gentle, yet imbued with authority. You have to confront the truth, no matter how painful that I don't want to confront him. Lilith's voice broke, a raw edge of fear transforming her resolve into quivers of desperation. I can't face him. But Marie stepped closer, urgency painting her words. You must. Only by confronting your past can you break free from his grasp. It was a paradox that twisted my heart. How could facing the very source of her pain be a way to liberate her? But a glimmer of understanding punctured through my panic as I watched Lila struggle against the overwhelming tide of inner conflict. What if I don't even know what I owe him? Lila trembled, her voice cracking under the weight of the revelation. Then let me help you remember, Marie offered, her expression softening. He'll guide you. Together we can unveil the shadows he's cast upon your memories. Are you sure it's safe? Mia interjected, her voice a hushed tension that echoed our vulnerability. What if he finds us here? Only if we linger, Marie replied with confidence, her eyes boring into each of us. He will sense fear, so we cannot hesitate. Trust me. Trust in Lila. She holds the key, whether she believes it or not. The weight of expectation settled heavily on Lilith's shoulders, and for a moment, the depth of her turmoil seemed unbearable. Would she really dig into the recesses of her past? Would she confront the darkness with the very courage that had flickered so dangerously close to extinguished? As the air thickened with uncertainty, I felt our connection stretch taut with potential, binding us together even as it threatened to snap. Then, suddenly, the heavy church doors rattled against their framea, bone-chilling reminder that we were not alone in this sanctuary. Marie sprang to her feet, her expression morphing from a soothing maternalism to a fierce protectiveness. He's here, she hissed, a warning that sent ice coursing through my veins. That moment, I understood our quest for freedom had brought with it an unexpected reckoning, one that we weren't just running towards, but more importantly, running from. Lila, I urged, gripping her hand tightly. You have to choose. Are you ready to face whatever haunted you? To uncover the truth? But just as she seemed to gather her resolve, a violent crash echoed through the church as a shadow loomed at the entrance, dark and unyielding. My heartbeat quickened as terror washed over me. We need to run, I shouted, but as I glanced back at Lila, I saw a flicker of understanding dawning within her. In that moment, one truth crystallized amidst the chaos. Facing the darkness was no longer a choice. It had become our only method of survival. The figure in the doorway took a step forward, a grin anchoring his wickedness, revealing the twisted void behind his eyes. The chilling laughter echoed once more, feeding into the pulse of dread that coursed through the room. Ah, my sweet Lila, he crooned, mocking affection entwined with malice. Have you come to redeem yourself? Or will you repeat the cycle of failure? And as the words sliced through the air, I realized that our escape had merely become a dance with fate, teetering on the brink of the inevitable. This wasn't just a test of our courage. It was the moment our paths entwined with a darkness that sought to reclaim its own. The choice was hers to make, but with the walls closing in, my heart thudded against the realization that time was slipping away, taking with it the promises of safety and light. Would we stand our ground? Or would the shadows drag us down into the abyss still lurking at our heels? Lila, I called again, desperation wrapping around my words, fully aware that the next moment could change everything. The choice hung above us like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury, promising chaos and uncertainty that would shatter everything we thought we knew. As the figure stepped closer, The shadows he cast seemed to engulf the corners of the room, twisting around Lilith's fragile hope like cold fingers gripping her heart. That mocking laughter echoed in my ears, drowning out the urge to flee. I wanted nothing more than to snatch Lila away from this nightmare, but a stronger instinct held me rooted in place, desperate to understand why we were here. Why now do you remember me, sweet Lila? He taunted, his voice dripping with familiarity that cracked the fragile facade of safety we had sought to build. No. Lila's voice erupted, a mix of fierce determination and fearful denial. You don't get to control me anymore. His laughter transformed into an eerie silence, the air thickening with tension. Control? He mused, almost thoughtfully, before his gaze sharpened. You've always been a part of my designs willingly, or not. Lila, I whispered, stepping protectively in front of her. Don't listen to him. Remember what Marie said? This is a fabrication meant to ensnare you. I'm not trapped, she shouted, her eyes fierce but quivering with doubt. I will not be defined by what you want. Yet here you are, standing in the remnants of a life patterned by my influence. He gestured to the remnants of the dusty room around us, ghosts of the past, tethering Lila to a fate she still couldn't comprehend. And all it takes is a whisper for you to come running. Like you always have. Marie stepped forward then, her presence radiating a calm strength. This is your past trying to reclaim you, Lila. Fight against it. But I could see a flicker of pain behind Lila's resolve, a hesitation rooted deep within her heart. What if I can't? She murmured, eyes locked with the figure who had loomed so large in her childhood memories. What if he's right? What if a part of me wants to belong to him again? The admission sliced through the air, sharp and raw. It was a moment of vulnerability, one that caught us both off guard. In that instant, I realized that the battle was more than just a fight for survival. It was a struggle for her very identity, for the essence of who she truly was beyond the fear that loomed. Lila, you are not defined by what he desires, I urged, voice thick with emotion. You are more than whispers and shadows. Fight for who you want to be. But she wavered, swallowed hard, and for a flickering moment, I feared despair would claim her. Then, something shifted in her. A glimmer of resolution began to flicker like a candle flame against a gust of wind. Enough, Lila declared, her voice steadier this time, echoing throughout the cluttered room. She stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with me, her hand finding mine. Whatever bond we share, whatever illusion of control you think you have, I'm here to break it. Today, the figure's eyes darkened with an ancient fury, a predator enraged by the prospect of losing its prey. You think you can walk away? He hissed. You cannot sever those ties without consequence. Mary's hand shot out, holding Lilith's gaze with an intensity that connected us all. And we are prepared to face those consequences. But before we could leap further into the unknown, the walls seemed to buckle and bend as flares of crimson light and shadows flickered at the edges, threatening to engulf us. You think the truths you hide can keep you safe? He sneered, advancing toward us with the relentless determination of a storm. You may step forward, Lila, but behind you is an abyss that shall not be bridged. In that moment, I realized the power of fear could be as binding as love if left to fester unacknowledged. No, I shouted, willing my voice to reach her heart as she stood on the precipice of choice. You are stronger than what haunts you. As if a switch was flipped, the shadows recoiled momentarily, a perception of uncertainty cast in the derisive light of unwavering defiance. And yet the nearness of danger clawed at my insides. Seconds ticked by agonizingly slow as the tumult around us crescendoed. Lila, whatever holds you back is nothing compared to the power of your soul. Heat surged through me, the emotional tumult forging an impenetrable bond that wrapped around our hands as we grappled against the power of manipulation. And then, in a breathtaking moment of clarity, Lila squeezed my hand, her resolve reigniting like the flicker of hope we so desperately needed. But my heart plummeted as the abyss behind us rippled ominously. The past will come for you. It won't let you go. The figure's voice roared, barriers threatening to collapse as darkness stirred, ready to claim what it believed was rightfully its own. Lila, I cried, the warning spilling from my lips, yet clinging to the thread of hope woven in our grasp. Make your choice. And in that moment, with forces gathering around us, an eruption of fear, vulnerability, In desperate courage, Lila pulled me closer, boldness igniting in her eyes. But I could see the tension was not just between us and him. It was rooted in her deeper conflicts, entwined with a decision that would change everything. Then, as if the world around us conspired to pull us apart, a rumbling erupted from inside the church, a warning that reverberated through the very foundation. The shadows quickened, morphing, blurring lines once thought to be unbreakable. "Choose now," I shouted desperately, heart racing. And before Lila could speak, the figure lunged with an outstretched hand toward her, darkness like tendrils seeking to ensnare her once more. But it was then that I realized the moment of her choice was slipping through our fingers. I tightened my hold on her. A deafening crash echoed through the room, and I caught sight of a flicker of movement, a small orb of brilliant light igniting from beneath Lila's palm, warm and radiating truth, the very essence of her resilience. The momentum shifted, causing everything to hang in balance. But it was all happening too fast, too chaotic, and as shadows swirled with manic determination, a horrifying thought burst forth: what would happen if her choice led into the abyss rather than salvation? And just as the light began to engulf the room, a strangled scream pierced through, and the fabric of reality around us buckled. "Lila," I shouted, but the words felt as though they were swallowed by the rising tide of chaos. In that very instant, I understood. This was only the beginning of a fight larger than ourselves. With the flicker of hope flashing against insurmountable darkness, we were on a razor's edge, one that would determine not just our fate, but the essence of everything we would ever come to be. The moment hung, unyielding, a precipice threatening to hurl us into an abyss of infinite possibilities. And I could only hope that the light within us could withstand the darkness encroaching from every side. Because in this battle, we had yet to discover the depth of our true power or the shattering cost of confronting the shadows that sought to claim her. I stood frozen, my heart racing, the weight of the world pressing upon my shoulders. The air was charged with tension. Every breath I took was a reminder of the uncertainty that loomed over us like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. Lila's voice rang out, resolute yet delicate, as she faced the figure that had haunted her for so long. "You don't owe me anymore. I've come too far to let you dictate my life." His cruel laughter echoed through the hallowed hall, intertwining with the shadows that danced around us. "But you carry the burden of your past, Lila. It will always be with you. You think you can escape me?" My heart clenched at his words, fear flooding through me. I wanted to scream, to take Lila's hand and pull her away from the abyss threatening to consume her. "You don't have to listen," I urged, fighting against the knot of despair that threatened to unravel everything we had fought for. "You hold the power to write your own story." "Power," Lila murmured, her eyes darting between the figure and mine, the uncertainty of her past clashing against the hope I knew still flickered within her. "What if he's telling the truth? What if I am nothing without what he's given me?" "No," Marie interjected, her voice firm enough to shake the foundations of fear around us. "You are not defined by anyone else's narrative. Listen." Lila recognized the strength within. "What you are feeling now, the doubts through his shadows trying to cloud your vision." A tremor of realization swept over Lila, her brows knitting together. But she hesitated. "If I face him, what will it cost me?" "Everything you've never needed," I answered, stepping forward, my voice steadying with an intensity driven by raw emotion. "And in return, you will reclaim your life. Your essence becomes something beautiful that he can never take from you." The shadows murmured around us. A flicker of illumination radiated from Lila's palm, warm and vibrant, a moment of clarity piercing through the gloom like a beacon of hope. She took a deep breath, gathering the remnants of her courage, and gripped my hand tighter. "I want to confront this. I need to know who I truly am." With that, she took a step forward, moving toward the figure who had once loomed large over her past. "I'm ready," she declared, the tremor in her voice now replaced by conviction. "Ready to face the truth?" "Yes," Marie cheered, her heart echoing Lila's newfound strength. "You are more powerful than this fear. Let the light of who you are blossom, foolish girl." The figure hissed, desperation filling his tone as the shadows thickened around him, mutating into dark furor. "You think you can escape your own essence? How naive." Lila's gaze remained steady, A fierce defiance blazed in her eyes. You don't control me. I am not your pawn. And just like that, the shimmering light from Lilith's palm expanded, a radiant defiance transforming the shadows that surrounded us into nothing more than their fear. The invisible bindings that had anchored her fell away, releasing her into a truth that had long been buried in the depths of her soul, that I in a heartbeat. The room transformed, glimmers of gold and white burst forth, illuminated by Lilith's empowering resolve. It radiated warmth, swallowing the darkness whole, leaving the figure trapped within its grasp, choking on disbelief as he realized his grip had shattered. And oh, this is not how it ends. He bellowed, rage contorting his face. But as the light surged stronger, the remnants of his shadowy essence dissolved into nothingness. With a final roar, he vanished, leaving behind only a haunting emptiness that draped over the room like a veil pulled back to reveal the dawning sun. As tender rays illuminated the corners of the church, I felt a heavy weight lifted, the chains of the past finally breaking apart. Lila, I whispered, my breath catching as I turned to her, the brilliance of her spirit painting the walls in vibrant hues of redemption and hope. You did it. I did, she said, her voice trembling, yet filled with a newfound strength. And in that moment, I saw her for who she truly was: brave, resilient, and radiant. Even if the past had tried relentlessly to define her, she had rewritten her own narrative, forged through the fires of trauma, and emerged as someone entirely new. Tears filled my eyes as I stepped forward, wrapping my arms around her tightly. Thank you for trusting me, for fighting for your truth. She leaned into me, a bittersweet smile forming on her lips. I had to face what haunted me to understand the beauty of what lies ahead, she murmured, her voice thick with emotions. You helped me see that we stood together, the embrace binding us not just in spirit, but in understanding. A promise that the past might have been dark, but the future glimmered with infinite possibilities. Together we had ventured into our own darkness, and together we had emerged into the light. As we pulled apart, I noticed the stillness surrounding us. The church transformed into a haven filled with whispers of peace as the sun began to set, casting an ethereal golden glow around us. But as we stood on the precipice of a new beginning, a realization washed over me like a soothing balm. Unveiling the truth wasn't the end of our journey. It was merely the prologue to a life reclaimed, reborn, and filled with as much beauty as the heart could hold. Are you ready to find a way forward? I asked, my heart brimming with the hope that coursed between us. Lila smiled, her eyes glimmering with resolve, as if the world had opened wide and revealed its heart to us. I'm ready, she whispered, and as I took her hand once more, a sense of lightness filled me. Through our shared trials, we had found a glimmer of something extraordinary, a chance to rewrite our stories, together. And under that expansive sky, I was reminded that no matter the shadows, hope would always rise to meet us if we were brave enough to seek it. In that profound moment, I couldn't help but revel in the truth I had waited for all along. The journey of healing hadn't just been about Lila. It had forever changed me. Sometimes, the darkest paths lead to the brightest endings. And I knew then, as the last flicker of daylight enveloped us, that I would walk beside her through each unfolding day, finding solace and light as long as we held each other close. In the end, love wasn't simply about saving one another from the shadows, but about uplifted spirits reclaiming the very core of their beings, finding a way home amid the chaos. And home, I realized, was not a place, but the connection forged in the fires of Lifia bond that would guide us forward into the light, hand in hand, heart to heart, hopeful and unyielding, reflecting the beautiful truth of who we had always been meant to become.